Yeah, please proceed, madam.
Hello everyone. So today, welcome to Tawhid Foundation for Allied Health Sciences. So in today's class, we will be discussing about metabolism of carbohydrates. In the last class, as you have seen, we have discussed in detail regarding the chemistry of carbohydrates. Under chemistry, we have studied in detail what is chemistry of carbohydrates, what are the classification of carbohydrates, and we have studied regarding the even practical section also, how what are the chemical properties of carbohydrates and properties of carbohydrates. We have completed in detail regarding monosaccharides, disaccharides and polysaccharides. In today's class, we will be focusing on what is the metabolism of carbohydrates. Okay, so before going to metabolism means how carbohydrates are formed and how they are broken down. So as you all know, we are dependent on carbohydrates for energy. So how carbohydrates are broken down to give energy and how carbohydrates are formed in our body from other sources, like from proteins, from amino acids, how carbohydrates are formed and how carbohydrates are broken down to give energy. So in detail, we will be studying what is the metabolism of carbohydrates. Okay. So before going to metabolism of carbohydrates, we will just have a brush up on what are carbohydrates. Okay, so under this we will be studying what is nutrition and what is carbohydrates, what is the classification of carbohydrates, what is the functions of carbohydrates, and then we will move on to what is metabolism. So in the last class we have studied in detail regarding carbohydrates and classification of carbohydrates. So here in this class we will not go in depth. We will just have a brush up about regarding the carbohydrates and classification of carbohydrates. Okay, under metabolism we will study what are the major metabolic pathways of carbohydrates. Under that we will study introduction to each pathway, steps of reactions in every metabolic pathway, clinical aspects, then coming to polysaccharides and clinical aspects, role of hormones in carbohydrate metabolism, dental aspects of carbohydrate metabolism, recent issue related to carbohydrate metabolism, and in final we will study what is the summary of carbohydrate metabolism, conclusion, and then references. Okay, so first we will start with introduction. Okay, so first coming to what is nutrition. Nutrition, it is defined as the science of how the body utilizes food to meet requirements for development, growth, repair, and maintenance. So here you are seeing nutrition means overall like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, waters, all this together. It comes under nutrition. So nutrition is why our body requires nutrition and the science of how the body utilizes food. Okay, so why do we require food? See, without food also we cannot survive. As you all know, without food and water and air, we cannot survive. So why do we need food? We need food for development, for growth, for repair and maintenance of our body. So we will be studying in detail why do we require carbohydrates, how carbohydrates are broken down, how they are formed, everything we will be studying in detail. Okay. Next, coming to what is the daily intake. Okay, so here according to this, what is the nutrient quantity per day we require? So per day our body requires 8,700 kilojoules of energy. Okay, then 50 grams of proteins, 70 grams of fat, and 310 grams of carbohydrates. Here you can see our body requires more amount of carbohydrates compared to proteins and fat. Then coming to sugars like carbohydrates, we require 90 grams. Then salt, that is sodium, we require 2.3 grams. Dietary fiber, we require 30 grams. And saturated fatty acids, we require 24 grams. Okay. Next, coming to what are carbohydrates. As we have studied in detail carbohydrates, we will just have a brush up about what are carbohydrates. Okay. So carbohydrates, they are most abundant organic molecules on earth. They are defined as polyhydroxy or aldehyde or ketone derivatives of polyhydric alcohols. Okay. For example, glycerol on oxidation is converted to D-glyceraldehyde, which is a carbohydrate derived from trihydric alcohol. That means what they want to say here is glycerol, it is an alcohol. Okay. So from glycerol, On oxidation, when we are this glycerol undergoes oxidation, we are getting glyceraldehyde. Glyceraldehyde, it is a carbohydrate. Okay, so carbohydrates sometimes they are derived from alcohols. Okay, then all carbohydrates have general formula CnH2nOn. So or it can be written as CnH2O whole to the power n. So this n can be any number, either it can be 1, 2, 3. It's like that. Okay, then next coming to what is the classification of carbohydrates? So carbohydrates, they are mainly classified as monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Under monosaccharides, the examples are erythrose, ribose and glucose. Under disaccharides, sucrose and lactose comes, and maltodextrose comes under oligosaccharides. Starch, cellulose, dextrine and dextran comes under polysaccharides. So these classification of carbohydrates, it is one of the very important topic regarding the carbohydrates. You can go for the previous classes and study in detail regarding the classification of carbohydrates. Okay. The next coming to what are the functions of carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates, they are the main source of energy in the body, and energy production from carbohydrates will be 4 kilocalorie per grams or 16 joules per gram. Okay, and carbohydrates, starch and glycogen, they are the storage form of energy. In the plants, it is stored in the form of starch, and in animals and human beings, it is stored in the form of glycogen. So carbohydrates, they are stored in the form of glycogen. Okay, so then excess of carbohydrates, if we are taking excess of carbohydrates, this excess of carbohydrates is converted to fat and it is stored in our body. Okay, then glycoproteins and glycolipids are components of cell membranes and receptors. Then they are the structural basis of many organisms. For example, starch, they are present, they are the example cellulose of plants and exoskeleton of insects. Okay, then like carbohydrates, they are present as cellulose in plants. Okay. The next coming to what is the biomedical importance of glucose. So glucose, it is a major carbohydrates. Now we were studying what was the importance of carbohydrates. Here particularly we are studying about glucose. Okay, because as you all know, our body is dependent on glucose for energy. Okay, so among all other carbohydrates, glucose is the major carbohydrate. Okay, it is the major fuel for tissues. It is converted into other carbohydrates. For example, if we are taking excess of glucose, then that glucose is converted to glycogen and it is stored in our body. It is stored in liver. Okay, then this ribose in glucose is stored as ribose in nucleic acid. It is converted to galactose. It is stored as galactose in lactose of milk. They form glycoproteins and proteoglycans. They are present in some lipoproteins, that is in LDL. LDL is low density lipoprotein. Okay, it is uh, one of the classification of lipoprotein. Okay, then it is present in plasma membrane. Example, glycocalyx. Then glycophorin is a major integral membrane glycoprotein of human erythrocytes. So this was the biomedical importance of glucose. The next coming to now, till now what we studied was, we were just having a brush up about chemistry of like what are carbohydrates. Now coming to actual metabolism. What is metabolism? As I said, metabolism. Okay, so thousands of chemical reactions are taking place inside a cell in an organized, well coordinated and purposeful manner. All these reactions are known as metabolism. For example, in our body, thousands of chemical reactions are taking place. Sometimes formation is happening, sometimes breakdown is happening. So all these chemical reactions, they are taking place in an organized and well coordinated, purposeful manner. So all these reactions only are known as metabolism. Okay, so there are types of metabolism. For example, catabolic pathway, anabolic pathway and amphibolic pathway. In further, I will be explaining you what is catabolic, what is anabolic and what is amphibolic. Okay. The next coming to what are the stages and phases of metabolism. So we are having primary stage of metabolism, secondary stage of metabolism and tertiary stage of metabolism. Okay. So now coming to what is metabolism. Now we studied like What is the definition of metabolism? So a living cell coordinates hundreds of reactions. Metabolism includes all these chemical reactions in a living system. So I said in our body there are hundreds of chemical reactions happening. There are many chemical reactions happening. These reactions, chemical reactions only are known as metabolism. Again, this metabolism is divided into anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism means formation. Catabolism means breakdown. Okay, so anabolism means something which is formed in our body. Okay, then something which is breaking down. For example, the biosynthetic reactions involving for the formation of complex molecules from simpler precursors. For example, simpler precursors. As I said, if the in our body, if the glucose molecules are more, so they are converted to glycogen. For example, if single glucose molecule, then it is combining with one more glucose molecule, one more, like that many glucose molecules are combining together to form glycogen. This is known as anabolism. Okay, something formation. Okay, so what is forming? Complex molecules are forming from simple molecules. Okay, next, coming to what is catabolism. Catabolism means breakdown. So the degradative process concerned with the breakdown of complex molecules into simpler ones and release the energy. For example, now our body is having glycogen. Okay, our glycogen is present in our body, and your body requires glucose. That means your body requires energy. So now what will happen? This glycogen, it is broken down to glucose to give energy. Okay, so glycogen, it is a bigger molecule. Okay, so this bigger molecule, it is broken down to smaller molecules. Okay, so when it is breaking down to smaller molecules, energy is released in our body. Okay, that is known as catabolism. Okay, so breaking down of complex molecules into simpler molecules by releasing energy is known as catabolism. Okay, so here you can see the best example. So when something is forming, we require energy. But when something is breaking down, it gives energy. So in anabolism, what is happening? Small molecules, they are forming together to form a complex. Simpler molecules, they are combining together to form a complex molecules. And to form simpler molecules, to convert simpler molecules into complex molecules, our body requires energy. Okay, so this is anabolism. Anabolism and catabolism both together is metabolism. Metabolism means formation also, even breaking down also. Okay, so here what are happening? The simpler molecules or simpler precursors, they are converted to complex molecules with the help of energy, with the help of ATP. Okay, in catabolism, this complex molecules, they are broken down to simpler molecules by releasing energy. Okay, so this energy, so whenever the catabolism is happening, our body is getting energy. So here this you need to understand, this is very important. You need to understand. Till now you might have heard catabolism, metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism, protein metabolism, then lipid metabolism and all. So what is metabolism? Metabolism means formation and breakdown. Okay, so formation, how it is formed? For example, if you are having one rupee coins or two rupee coins, so keeping them with you is difficult. So what you do? You go and give someone all the coins or all the change, and you take one note in return. So that is anabolism, formation. Okay, so now you want to take something. So what is happening? You are giving that 100 rupees note, and you are taking something and you are getting in return change. Okay, so anabolism is nothing but from simpler molecules you are getting complex molecules, and for this you require energy. Okay, in catabolism, from complex molecules you are getting simpler molecules and with the release of energy. Okay, so this is metabolism. Metabolism requires both anabolism and catabolism. Okay, the next, coming to whenever we take food molecules. Okay, so whenever we have food, this food is broken down, that means it is digested and it is converted to simpler molecules. Okay, so this food, simpler molecules, they undergo amphibolic pathway. Amphibolic pathway means anabolism and catabolism. So in amphibolic pathway, what is happening? Simpler molecules, like they are converted into proteins. Proteins means One protein, it is made up of more than many amino acids. No, so that means many amino acids. Amino acids, they are simpler molecules. Okay, they are single molecules. So amino acids, they are converted into proteins like that. From in food molecules, whenever we are taking food, simpler molecules, they are converted into proteins, carbohydrates, lipids and nucleic acids through anabolic pathway. Okay, in catabolic pathway, what is happening? This larger molecules, again, they are broken down to give carbon dioxide and water and even energy also, and even simpler molecules also. Okay. The next coming to, till now we studied what is metabolism. Now you till now you have understood what is metabolism. Now we will be coming to what is carbohydrate metabolism. Okay. So all living cells require energy to carry out various cellular activities. As you all know, we require energy for not only to do any activities, to survive. For example, today it might be Sunday. For example, imagine today is Sunday and you're not going to college, you're not going to work, or you're not going to college. So you need, now you're like, suppose you know you are staying at home only, no need to go to college or no need to go to work. So you are staying at home or PG. So like if you are staying at PG, okay, today is Sunday, you are not having any work. So from morning to evening, you will be lying down on bed only. Rather, you will not even get up from your bed. But still, you will feel hungry at the exact time. You need to have your breakfast, you need to have your lunch, you need to have your dinner. In spite of not doing any work, you'll be feeling hungry. Why? Because there are so many activities going on in your body. Your brain is functioning, your heart is functioning, your kidneys are functioning, your stomach is functioning, your lungs are functioning. So all your body functions, activities are going on. So to all these activities, we require energy. So how we are getting this energy? So from the food what we are having, we are getting energy. So the food what we are having, what it contains? It contains carbohydrates, lipids, fats, nutrients. Then it contains vitamins, minerals. All this it will be having. No. So that means what? All living cells require energy to carry out various cellular activities. So this energy is stored in organic molecules in the form of, like example, carbohydrates, fats and proteins that we eat as food. So whatever we are taking food, that food, it is broken down and it is converted into carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Okay. Then how much ever it is required by our body, it utilizes at the same time, and the remaining carbohydrates, fats or proteins or whatever energy this is there, that is stored in our body for further purpose. Okay. So these organic molecules are broken down into smaller units, that is proteins into amino acids. So whatever food we are taking in the form of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Okay. So whenever we are consuming in the form of carbohydrates, fats or proteins. So whenever we are taking it in the form of complex form. Okay. So this proteins, it is converted into amino acids in our body. Then the polysaccharides comes under carbohydrates. So these polysaccharides, they are converted into simple sugars. Like simple sugars in the sense like monosaccharides. So polysaccharides are converted to monosaccharides like glucose, fructose or galactose, and fats are converted into fatty acids and glycerols. So all this, it is converted by enzymatic reactions in cells to generate energy in the form of ATP. So whenever these proteins are converted into amino acids, polysaccharides are converted into simple sugars, fatty acids are converted into fats, are converted into fatty acids, like complex fats molecules are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So whenever this is happening, so it will generate energy in our body in the form of ATP. Okay. So the ATP generated by these pathways in cells is used to drive fundamental cellular processes. So whatever ATP is generated during this process, this ATP is utilized by our body. Okay. So glucose, it is utilized as a source of energy. And for example, whenever we are taking food, so whenever we are taking carbohydrates, for example, we are taking carbohydrates. So we are taking carbohydrates in the form of polysaccharides. Poly means many, saccharides means sugar, and that means it will be having many sugar units, more than 10 sugar units. So this polysaccharides, they are broken down in our body whenever it is digested, and it is absorbed in the form of monosaccharides. Okay, so that means monosaccharides means sugar glucose. So this glucose, it is utilized as a source of energy, and the remaining glucose, it is converted as glycogen, and it is stored in our body. Okay, this stored as glycogen, in further whenever our body requires glucose, this glycogen is broken down to release glucose. So this is happening in our body. For example, you are having money, so you are saving money. Okay, so whenever you are saving money, you don't keep usually money in the form of change, because whenever change is there, what will happen? It is very difficult for storage. Then we will be like thinking, if the money is in change, we might spend off. So what we do, we convert all the change into some particular, like what to say, in a big amount. For example, you are having change all the money, like if you are having 500 coins or something, it will be very difficult for you to keep it, store it also, and to manage also it is very difficult. You need space also to store it, and it is not safe also. So what you do, you give all the coins and you take one note in return, so that it will be safe also. You'll be sure that you are having that money also. So in the same way in our body also, and whenever you require money, what you do, you give that money and you take whatever you want. No, so same thing is happening here. Glucose, it is utilized by our body whenever we take food, and the remaining glucose is converted into glycogen, and it is stored in our body. Okay, why it is stored? It is stored for further use. So whenever further, it is not possible for us to have every time food. No, is it possible for us to have food all the time? No, it is not at all possible. We cannot keep on having food all the time, or we cannot keep on food having, we cannot keep on having food after every half an hour. So what we do, we have food with a break of at least 4 to 6 hours, right? You have breakfast morning at 8 o'clock, then you have lunch by 1 o'clock, then you have dinner by 9 o'clock. So 1 to 9, that means you are having break of at least 8 hours. So during that time, what is happening? This glycogen will be giving you energy. Okay. Next, coming to what is carbohydrate metabolism. Now next, coming to what are the major pathways of carbohydrate metabolism. For example, what all metabolisms or what all pathways or cycles we will be studying under carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, so first coming to, we will be studying glycolysis, citric acid cycle, gluconeogenesis, glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, hexose monophosphate shunt pathway, uronic acid pathway, galactose metabolism, fructose metabolism, and amino acid sugar metabolism. So all these things comes under carbohydrate metabolism. Okay. So in detail, first I'll be saying you what are this, then we will be going in detail. Okay. First coming to glycolysis. Glyco means what? Glyco means glucose. Lysis means breakdown. Okay, so that means breaking down. That means breaking down glucose. Glyco means glucose, lysis means breakdown. So breaking down glucose. That is breaking down glucose is known as glycolysis. That means the breakdown of glucose, or the oxidation of glucose means the breaking down glucose to pyruvate in the presence of oxygen. So this will happen in two forms. Okay, one is in the presence of oxygen and in the absence of oxygen. So the breakdown of glucose to give pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and to give lactate in the absence of oxygen is known as glycolysis. So this is a definition of glycolysis. Glycolysis means the breakdown of glucose to give pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and lactate in the absence of oxygen is nothing but glycolysis. Okay. Then next, going to what? Citric acid cycle. So citric acid cycle, here there is the oxidation of acetyl-CoA to give carbon dioxide and water and energy. Okay. In glycolysis also you need to mention the breakdown of glucose. Why we are breaking down glucose? To give pyruvate, lactate, to give pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and lactate in the absence of oxygen, and to release energy. That is important. Okay. Then citric acid cycle also, here we are breaking down acetyl-CoA. Okay. To give carbon dioxide, water and energy. Okay. The next, coming to gluconeogenesis. Gluco means what? Glucose. Neo means new. Genesis means formation. So genesis is formation, lysis means breakdown. That means glucose, new glucose is forming. Glucose new forming. So the formation of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. Non-carbohydrate sources like amino acids or yeah, fatty acids, yeah, fats or proteins. That means formation of new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources is known as gluconeogenesis. The next coming to glycogenesis. Glycogen means glycogen is made up of many glucose molecules. Genesis means formation. That means the formation of glycogen from glucose is known as glycogenesis. Formation of glycogen. From how glycogen is formed? Glycogen is made up of many glucose molecules. That means formation of glycogen from glucose. Next coming to glycogenolysis. That means here you can see glycogen. Glycogen. Glycogen and lysis. Glycogen lysis we cannot write down. So we have added O. That means glycogenolysis or glycogen lysis. So glycogen lysis means glycogen breakdown. The breakdown of glycogen. Why we are breaking down glycogen? To give energy. To give energy and glucose. So the breakdown of glycogen to glucose is known as glycogenolysis. Okay. Then next coming to hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Okay. Or it is known as hexose monophosphate pathway, or it is also known as HMP shunt pathway. H means hexose, M means mono, P stands for phosphate shunt pathway. So this might look very long to say. So in short, you can write down as hexose HMP shunt pathway. Okay. So this is an alternative pathway for glycolysis and citric acid cycle for the oxidation of glucose. That means this shunt means shifting. Glucose, instead of going into glycolysis pathway, this shifted into HMP shunt pathway. Okay, HMP pathway. So this is known, that is why it is known as shunt. So this is an alternative pathway. See, in glycolysis also we are breaking down glucose. In citric acid cycle also we are breaking down glucose. Other than glycolysis and citric acid cycle, the glucose will enter into hexose monophosphate pathway, that is known as HMP shunt pathway. So it is an alternative pathway of glycolysis and citric acid cycle for the breakdown of glucose. Okay. So this is known as hexose monophosphate pathway. Okay. Then next coming to uronic acid pathway. And in hexose monophosphate pathway, one more thing, only 1% of glucose will enter into this. Okay, only 1% of glucose will enter into HMP shunt pathway. Okay, next coming to uronic acid pathway. So here glucose is converted to glucuronic acid, pentoses and ascorbic acid. In uronic acid pathway, what is happening? The glucose, it is converted to glucuronic acid, pentoses and ascorbic acid. So it is an alternative oxidative pathway for glucose. This is also an alternative pathway. Okay. The next coming to galactose metabolism. Galactose metabolism. Then it is in this what is happening? Conversion of galactose to glucose and then synthesis of lactose. So and the synthesis of lactose. So what is happening? Galactose metabolism. In galactose metabolism, galactose is converted to glucose and the synthesis of lactose. Okay. Next coming to fructose metabolism. Here the what is happening? Oxidation of fructose to pyruvate is happening in fructose metabolism. The next coming to amino acid and mucopolysaccharide metabolism. So here what is happening? The synthesis of amino acids and other sugars for the formation of mucopolysaccharides and glycoproteins. So mucopolysaccharides and glycoproteins have to be formed. So here what is happening? The synthesis of amino acids and other sugars. Why we are forming amino acids and other sugars means for the formation of mucopolysaccharides and glycoproteins. Okay. So these are the major pathways of carbohydrate metabolism. That means under carbohydrate metabolism, all these cycles will be studying or all these pathways will be studying. Okay. So there now till now we were studying about what is carbohydrate metabolism. Now we will be studying what is the entry of glucose. How glucose is entered into our cells. So this is happening in two types. Okay, one is insulin dependent transport system, one more is insulin independent transport system. So in insulin, first is insulin independent transport system of glucose. So here what is happening? We do not require insulin for the transport of glucose. As we all know, as you all have studied about, heard about diabetes. No, in diabetes mellitus, what is happening? Our body's blood sugar level is becoming low. No. So what is happening? Hyperglycemia. Hyper means more, glycemia means glucose, more glucose in blood. So in diabetes, the main condition is hyperglycemia. That means more blood sugar levels, more sugar in blood or more blood sugar levels. So why it is happening? Because there is no insulin. If insulin is not there, what is happening? See, our body, it is dependent on glucose for energy. So whenever we are having food, our body is getting glucose. So now this glucose, what it has to be done? For example, you are going to college. So as soon as you go into college, what you have to do? You have to go into your classes and you need to attend your classes. Imagine you people are not going to classes only. That time what will happen? It is waste of going you to college if you are not going to classes. No. Yeah. Huh. So, uh, that is happening here. That means there are two types of transport system. First is insulin independent transport system. Here, what is happening? For the transport of glucose, we do not require hormone insulin. Okay. So, here it is not dependent on hormone insulin, and this is operative. This happens only in hepatocytes in your liver, in your erythrocytes and brain. That means it is happening only in your liver, your blood cells and your brain. So remaining all your like body muscles, adipose tissue, they require glucose for transport. Okay, so that is known as insulin dependent transport system. In insulin dependent transport system, you require insulin for the transport of glucose. Okay, so insulin is a hormone. So where you need to require, where you need to transport it, you need to transport it to muscles and adipose tissues. Okay, the next coming to what is now in detail we will be studying single pathway. Like in detail we will be studying all the pathways or cycles. Okay, first coming to glycolysis. As I said, glycolysis means glyco means glucose and lysis means breaking down. That means breaking down glucose is known as glycolysis. So this is also known as Embeden-Meyerhof pathway because he is the one who introduced this glycolysis pathway. So it is known as Embeden-Meyerhof pathway, or it is also known as EM pathway. Okay. So first coming to see, whenever they ask glycolysis, for example, usually they ask glycolysis for 10 marks. Okay. So whenever they ask something for 10 marks, you need to divide it and write it. Okay. So whenever they ask something for 10 marks, you cannot write all the, like, you cannot write paragraphs together. You need to divide it. No. For example, if I say you to say something about yourself for 10 marks, first what you'll do, you'll start with introduction. You will introduce yourself, then you'll be introducing what are your hobbies, your aims, then what you want to do, what are you doing, everything will be introduced. In the same thing here also, whenever they ask this something, any pathway or cycle for 10 marks, you need to start with definition. Okay, first you need to write down what is the definition of that pathway, then you have to write down where it is happening. Okay, where it is happening, then next you need to write down site, then after that you need to write down, yeah, then you need to write down what are the starting products. Okay, then you have to write down what are the end products. Starting products means from where the pathway is starting. Then what are the end products you are getting. Then after that you have to write down what are the reaction, like what is the cycle. Then you have to write down, you need to explain the pathway or cycle. Then you have to write down energetics, means how many energy is required or how many energy it is releasing. Okay, then finally you can write down what is the importance of that pathway. Okay, in this way you have to write down. For example, if you write down definition, you'll be getting for 1 marks. You will get 1 marks for definition. Then you have to write down site. Site also, which site it is happening, and intracellular site. Inside the cell, exactly where it is happening. Then you have, so that is for 1 marks. Then you have to write down what are the starting products, which is for 1 marks. Then what are the end products. So this covers 4 marks. Then you have to write down reaction pathway, or you have to write down what is the cycle or pathway. Full pathway you have to write down. That is for 3 marks. You have to explain it. So along with explanation, if you write down, it is for 4 marks. Total you completed 8 marks here. So 1 marks is for energetics, 1 marks is for importance of that cycle. So in this way you can cover your 10 marks. Okay. So now coming to what is the definition of glycolysis. So as you all know, as I said, glycolysis, it is defined as the reactions converting or breaking down glucose or glycogen to pyruvate or lactate with the and producing energy. That is known as glycolysis. Glycolysis is defined as the breaking down of glucose to pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and lactate in the absence of oxygen with releasing energy or ATP. Okay. So this is also known as embedded pair of pathway or EM pathway. It is defined as the sequence of reactions converting glucose or glycogen to pyruvate or lactate with the production of ATP. So, as you all know, glycolysis is the only pathway which is taking place in each and every cell of your body, of our body. Okay, as like you can say our brain cells, our heart cells, our eyes, our blood, our kidney, everywhere a glycolysis pathway is happening. So this is the only pathway which is taking place in all cells of our body. That means all the cells of our body, they are dependent on glucose. Okay, so that means they are dependent on glucose for energy. So glycolysis is the only pathway which will take place in all the cells of our body. Okay, the enzymes of this pathway are present in cytosomal fraction of the cell. Okay, so this is happening in the cytosol, and glycolysis can be aerobic or anaerobic. That means it can happen in the presence of oxygen, or this can happen in the absence of oxygen also. So in the end product, lactate is the end product in anaerobic condition. So as I said, in the absence of oxygen, you will be getting lactate, and in the presence of oxygen, you will be getting pyruvate. Okay. So in an anaerobic condition, that means in the presence of oxygen, you'll be getting pyruvate, and in the absence of oxygen, you'll be getting lactate, which is then oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. So as I said, in the definition only, what you have to write down, glycolysis is defined as is defined as the breakdown of glucose molecules to give pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and lactate in the absence of oxygen with the production of energy or ATP. Okay. So this was the introduction of glycolysis, or you can add on this along definition along with introduction. Okay, which is for 1 marks. Then next coming to what are the salient features of this pathway. So this is the only pathway which will take place in all the cells of our body. So the enzyme present in cytosomal fraction, this is happening in the cytosomal fraction of the cell. Then lactate we are getting end product in anaerobic condition, and pyruvate we are getting in aerobic condition. This is finally oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. Okay. So tissues lacking mitochondria, that is major pathway ATP synthesis. Okay. So, and this glycolysis pathway, this is very essential pathway in brain, because our brain cells and our RBCs, that is your erythrocytes and brain cells, they are completely dependent on glucose only. Other than glucose, they cannot survive with other energy source. Okay, so carbohydrates, it is very important in our body, because our brain cells and our RBCs, they are completely dependent on carbohydrates for energy. Okay, then glycolysis, it is the central metabolic pathway and reversal of glycolysis results in formation of glycogen. Reversal of glycolysis results in formation of new glucose molecule. Okay, gluconeogenesis means formation of new glucose molecule. So this was the salient features of your glycolysis pathway. Okay. The next coming to what are the reactions of glycolysis. So glycolysis happens in three phases. Okay, three reactions. First phase is known as energy investment phase or priming phase. That means we are investing energy. Okay. In the second step, what is happening? We are splitting. That is known as splitting phase. And in the last phases, we are what is happening? Energy is produced or energy generation phase is happening. So this reaction glycolysis pathway happens in three phases. First phase is energy investment phase, then it is splitting phase, then it is energy generating phase or energy formation phase. Okay. So coming to this is known as your glycolysis pathway. Okay. Here after from pyruvate we are not getting lactate. Okay. So totally it is happening in 10 steps. So first coming to in first step what is happening? You'll be having here this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 you are seeing no. These are enzymes. These enzymes they are written here. Okay. So first what is happening? You are having glucose. Okay. This glucose is converted to glucose 6-phosphate in the presence of enzyme hexokinase. Okay. So here what is happening? In the first step, ATP is converted to ADP. That means ADP means adenine triphosphate. That means we are having 3 phosphate molecules. So these 3 phosphate molecules, it is again converted to adenine diphosphate, ADP. That means from 3 you are coming to 2. That means -1. You are utilizing 1 energy here. Okay. So only the starting steps are known as energy utilization phase. Then splitting phase, finally energy formation phase. Okay. So this is a irreversible reaction. What do you mean by irreversible? Here you can see there is only one arrow. There is no one more arrow is not there. That means from glucose you can convert it to glucose 6-phosphate, but from glucose 6-phosphate you cannot convert to glucose. Okay. So this is the first step of your glycolysis pathway. In the second step, glucose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 6-phosphate in the presence of enzyme phosphoglucose isomerase. Okay. And it is a reversible reaction. Reversible reaction means you can see here 2 arrows are there. That means from glucose 6-phosphate, you can convert it to fructose 6-phosphate also. Again, from fructose 6-phosphate, you can convert to glucose 6-phosphate. Okay. Next, coming to the third step. Third step, what is happening? Fructose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate in the presence of enzyme phosphofructokinase 1. Okay. Again, here what is happening? ATP is converted to ADP. That means adenine triphosphate is converted to adenine diphosphate. That means from 3 ATPs you are from 3 phosphate molecules you are getting 2 phosphate molecules. That means 1 phosphate molecule is utilizing here. Okay. So this is the third step. In the fourth step, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate in the presence of enzyme aldolase. Okay. So what is happening? Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate with the help of enzyme aldolase. Okay. So this is happening in the presence of enzyme aldolase and it is a reversible reaction. Reversible means you can from fructose 1,6-phosphate you can form glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Again from glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate you can form fructose 1,6-bisphosphate molecule. Okay. The next coming to here again here one more step is happening, splitting phase, but no need to require that will happen in the presence of trioseptose isomerase. But if you don't write this also, it is okay. This much is enough for your for the allied students. Okay. So in the fourth next step, that is our fifth step, or here they have given us 6 step, but we will take it as 5th step only. In this, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, see here they have given 10 steps, but you can write down this as 9 steps only. Okay, 9 steps in the presence of oxygen. Last one step is there. Pyruvate is converted to lactate in the absence of oxygen with the help of enzyme lactate dehydrogenase. Okay. So now coming to in the fifth step, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. This is the enzyme which is coming here. Okay. So here what is happening? 2-NAD is converted to 2-NADH. That means energy is being produced. Okay. The next coming to in the next step of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate in the presence of enzyme glyceraldehyde for 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Then next coming to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted to 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay, here 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted to 3-phosphoglycerate in the presence of enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase. Okay, so here what is happening? Again 2-ADP is converted to ATP. That means ADP means di is converted to ATP. So here again energy is being produced and it is a irreversible reaction. So in the next step, this 3-phosphoglycerate is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate in the presence of enzyme phosphoglyceromutase. Okay. Again, this is a reversible reaction. That means from this you can get this, from this again you can get this. Okay. Then in the next step, 2-phosphoglycerate is converted to phosphoenol pyruvate in the presence of enzyme enolase. Okay. So this is happening and here 2 molecules of water is released. Okay. And this is a reversible reaction. That means from phosphoenol pyruvate you can get 2-phosphoglycerate, or from 2-phosphoglycerate you can get phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay. In the last step of oxidative step, or in the presence of aerobic condition, that is in the presence of oxygen, phosphoenol pyruvate is converted to pyruvate in the presence of enzyme pyruvate kinase. Again here what is happening? 2-ADP is converted to 2-ATP. That means finally we are getting 2-ATP, 2-NADH and 2 pyruvate molecules. Here you are getting 2 pyruvate molecules. Okay. So that means in the presence of enzyme pyruvate kinase, and it is a irreversible reaction. That means you can see only one arrow. So all these 9 steps, these steps are in the presence of oxygen, are known as in the aerobic steps. Okay, here I have said, as I said you, these are known as aerobic steps. Okay, see here you can see in the these steps, 9 steps, we got pyruvate as our end product. This is happening in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so next what we got here? Pyruvate, this pyruvate is converted to lactate in the presence of enzyme LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, that we will be discussing further. That is an anaerobic reaction in the absence of oxygen, that will be happening with the help of enzyme lactate dehydrogenase. So I hope you have understood this. So these are the steps of glycolysis pathway, and the enzymes present here are hexokinase, phosphoglucose isomerase, then phosphofructokinase, aldolase, then triophosphate isomerase, then glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, then phosphoglycerate kinase, phosphoglyceromutase, enolase, and pyruvate kinase. So these are the enzymes which are required in the glycolysis pathway. So what is happening here? In glycolysis, we are breaking down glucose to give pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and to give lactate in the absence of oxygen with the release of energy. So this is the definition of glycolysis. Okay. That only, whatever steps are there, the same steps we are explaining here. So this was the reaction pathway. Okay. This reaction pathway, this we need to explain like this. So in the first step, glucose is phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate. So the enzyme is hexokinase here, which breakdowns ATP to ADP, and PI is added to glucose and the reaction is irreversible. So you can write down, you can know, if you are not understanding this, from here only you can explain. How you can explain is, in the first step, Glucose is converted to glucose 6-phosphate with the help of enzyme hexokinase. Here ATP is converted to ADP and it is a irreversible reaction. So first step is explained. In the next step, next coming to glucose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 6-phosphate with the help of enzyme phosphoglucose isomerase. Okay, and it is a reversible reaction. So second step is explained. Again, third step. See, explanation is very, very easy. In the third step, how you have to explain is glucose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose. Fructose 6-phosphate is converted to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate with the help of enzyme. Which enzyme? Phosphofructokinase 1. Okay. And here ATP is converted to ADP or adenine triphosphate is converted to adenine diphosphate. Triphosphate is converted to diphosphate and it is an irreversible reaction. That's all. See, if you know the pathway, explanation is very, very important, very, very easy. No need to memorize anything. You can just see your pathway and you can explain. Next, coming to fourth step. Fourth step, how you can write down fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate with the help of enzyme aldolase. Okay. Then this is an reversible reaction. This much only. In the next step, next you have to explain glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Here 2 NAD plus 2PI is converted to 2 NADH plus 2H plus. Okay, and it is a reversible reaction. That's all. Next, coming to next step, how you have to explain 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted to 3-phosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase, and it is a irreversible reaction. And here 2 ADP are converted to 2 ATP. The next, coming to next step. In the next step, what we have to write down? 3-phosphoglycerate is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate. Okay. 3-phosphoglycerate is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme phosphoglyceromutase. Okay. And it is a irreversible reaction. The next, coming to next last 8th step. That is 2-phosphoglycerate is converted to phosphoenol pyruvate in the help of enzyme enolase. And it is a reversible reaction. Here, 2 molecules of energy is released. Then next, coming to last step of oxidative pathway, phosphoenol pyruvate is converted to pyruvate with the help of enzyme pyruvate kinase. And it is a irreversible reaction. Here, 2 ADP is converted to 2 ATP. Understood? In this way, you need to explain the pathway. Okay. So that explanation only is given here. The next, coming to what is the energetics. Okay. So coming to energetics. So from one glucose molecules and in the presence of oxygen, you can get 8 ATPs. Okay. And in the absence of oxygen, you will get 2 ATPs. Okay. So how? That means under anaerobic condition, 2 ATPs are formed. Okay. From one glucose molecules. But in the presence of oxygen, under aerobic condition, 8 ATPs are synthesized depending upon the shuttle pathway that operates. For example, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay. This step, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay. That is the 5th step. Here, in this step, what is happening? We are getting 6 ATPs. That means from here, 3 into 2. So, this 2 is converted into 3. So, here 3 phosphate, no, that means 3 into 2. So, totally we are getting 6 phosphate molecules. Okay. Then 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted to 3-phosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase. Okay. So here what we are getting 2 ATPs. Okay. Then next in the last second step we are getting phosphoenol pyruvate is converted to pyruvate. No, with the help of pyruvate kinase there 2 ADPs are converted to 2 ATPs. So here we are getting totally 2 ATPs. In total we are getting 10 ATPs. Okay. But net ATP synthesis in glycolysis in aerobic condition. So 2 ATPs we are utilizing. So see here we are utilizing 2 ATP. 1 ATP here. ATP is converted to ADP. Here ATP is converted to ADP. So totally we are utilizing 2 ATP. So in total we are getting 10 ATP, in which 2 ATPs are being utilized. So 10 minus 2 is total 8. That means in total from one glucose undergoes glycolysis pathway to give 8 ATP molecules. Okay, I hope you have understood the energetics, how we got 8. This step, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. We got 6 ATPs. Then in the step 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted to 3-phosphoglycerate. We got 2 ATPs. Then in the step phosphoenol pyruvate to pyruvate, we got 2 ATPs. Here you can see, here we are getting 6, here we are getting 2, and here we are getting 2. So 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 2 is 10. So in total we are getting 10 ATPs from here. But in the starting steps, what I said, these are energy utilizing steps. No, that means we are utilizing one energy, minus 1 here. And here also we are utilizing adenine triphosphate is converted to adenine di. Tri means, it is 3. Okay. Di means it is 2. That means from 3 we are getting 2. Okay, that means minus 1, minus 1. That means we are utilizing 2 ATP. So 10 minus 2 is total 8. That means we are getting 8 ATPs. Okay. So, under anaerobic condition, 2 ATPs are synthesized, while under aerobic condition, 8 ATPs are being synthesized. So, the net reaction, overall reaction we can write down as glucose plus 2 ADP plus 2 PI plus 2 NAD gives rise to 2 pyruvate molecules along with 2 ATP and 2 NADH molecules. Okay. So that energy production only here we are. So ATP production is in total is the amount of ATP produced minus an amount of ATP utilized. So the amount of ATP production is how much the amount of ATP was produced? 10. No. And how much the amount of ATP was utilized? 2. So 10 minus 2 is 8. So the ATP production in glycolysis pathway is 8. Okay. So here in the absence of oxygen, the ATP produced is 4 and the ATP utilized is 2. So in total we are getting 2 ATPs. But in the presence of oxygen, we are getting ATP produced is 6 plus 2, that is 8. 10 total we are getting 10 ATPs. Here 6 plus 4, or here they are saying some in some textbook they write as 4 plus 4, or in some textbook they write as 4 plus 6. So in total we are getting 4 plus 6 10, and the ATP utilized is 2. So 10 minus 6 is 8. 10 minus 2 is 8. So in the absence of oxygen, totally 8 ATPs are being produced. So this completes your glycolysis pathway. This is one of the very important pathway of carbohydrate metabolism. So this question usually it is a repeated question for first year allied students, second year MLT, and even third year MLT also. It is very important for you. So if they ask glycolysis pathway, you need to explain all this. So starting from glycolysis, what is the definition of glycolysis along with the introduction. Then next coming to what is the site. So where glycolysis is happening. Glycolysis, it is happening in all the cells of our body. Particularly it is happening in mitochondria or cytosol. Okay. So the next coming to what are the starting products. So what are the starting products of this glycolysis pathway? Glucose. No. What is starting product? Starting product is nothing but glucose. Then the next coming to what are the end products. So end products, what are the end products we are getting? We are getting pyruvate in the presence of oxygen and lactate in the absence of oxygen. So here you complete 4 marks. The next coming to pathway. So you need to explain, write full pathway, that is totally 10 steps. 9 steps are in the presence of oxygen and 1 step in the absence of oxygen. Okay. Then you need to explain. If you have time, you can explain it, or no need to explain. Then next coming to what is the energetics. Then next coming to what is the importance of glycolysis pathway. So this completes your glycolysis pathway for 10 marks. Okay. So I hope you have understood metabolism. So this is the pathway, and whenever you are writing pathway, make sure you are starting with the fresh page. Never use, never write half pathway in one page and the remaining half pathway in other page. It will be very difficult for the examiner to even to understand also, to see also, and then it will be very difficult for you to write also. See, if it is there is continuation in the pathway, no, you can write on step by step. And always these arrows, no, you have to write down little big, and never mix enzymes with the pathways. Okay, this should be completely written, boldly written, and enzymes always try to write down enzymes small, so that there will be no confusion between pathways and enzymes. Okay, and never miss enzyme. Without enzyme, the further reaction cannot take place. For example, without hexokinase, glucose cannot be broken down to glucose 6-phosphate. So it is mandatory that you need to write down enzyme. Writing enzymes is very, very important. So first write down whole pathway, then write down what are the enzymes here. Even energetics also you need to put table like this and explain. Or table, or just put lines and you need to explain energetics. Okay, you cannot write in paragraphs energetics. Better write down energetics. Under aerobic condition how many ATPs are formed. Under anaerobic condition how many ATPs are formed. Right, you can write down and you can explain. Okay. So this was regarding glycolysis pathway, which comes under, which is the first pathway under metabolism of carbohydrates. So before going to metabolism of carbohydrates, make sure you are you have studied the chemistry of carbohydrates. Until you have studied the chemistry of carbohydrates, it will be very difficult for you to understand the metabolism of carbohydrates. First study and complete with the chemistry of carbohydrates, so that your metabolism of carbohydrates will be easier for you to understand. Okay, so today we will end the class here. In the next class we will continue with the metabolism of carbohydrates. Okay, thank you.